Tonight, we got Bob Vu on the show from Bob's Balls. Bob is putting on the Southeast Reptile Expo in September, and he's here to talk about it tonight. So we're going to learn all about that show. Of course, I got to pick his brain about the market, how people can develop their own marketplace, how they can sell their own animals, how to survive in a time like this. And I'm also going to ask Bob what else he's investing in these days, both ball pythons wise, animals, reptiles in general, and then other pursuits and other things that he is investing in. Stick around. We got a killer show. It's going to be a blast for you. I promise. Thanks for Bob for being here. Stick around. Good evening. It's Tuesday night and 8 o'clock on the East Coast. It's 7 o'clock here in Minnesota. We're under a tornado watch. Like, if it gets weird, it's like, what can I do? Otherwise, we're, it's live Tuesday night and we're going to roll with it. So I don't know. They're talking about all sorts of really rough storms, but I haven't seen or heard anything. It's only supposed to last till for one more hour local time. So who knows? Maybe we'll squeeze in a little bit of fun before the tornado takes us away. We'll see. Thank you for being here. If you missed the intro, Bob Vu from Bob's Balls is on the show. If you don't know who Bob is, you should. And I don't mean that in a patronizing way. If you don't know, check out the links down below. Get to know Bob. He's certainly been a huge influence and a help to me, literal help. Bob's looked out for me in person before. It's always just something I appreciate. So very cool. Bob will be out in just a moment. We're going to talk about the Southeast Reptile Expo. If you haven't checked that out or you're not familiar with it, scroll down into the description. You don't have to scroll far. It's right near the top. One of the links right near the top. There's its own website, Facebook page, and Instagram page on there as well. And I think somebody is in the audience chatting as the Southeast Reptile Expo. Yeah. So, you could chat with I think if you don't know, also Bob is good for some comedy. I'm not going to spoil his name tonight, but it's pretty good that he's got. So I think Bob is running the chat station there for the Southeast Reptile Expo chat handle. So say hey to Bob there. He'll be on in just a second. Big thank you to Scaled Up Expos in Wisconsin this weekend and Cold Blooded Expos here in Minneapolis. I had back-to-back shows this weekend, and they were fantastic. It was best weekend I've ever had from a show financial standpoint. I've probably had more fun in a weekend before, but where it counts, it was a very, very good weekend. So thanks to those promoters. Thanks to all everybody that came out. Thanks to everybody that supported me, picked up an animal from me. It's a cool feeling. It's going well, and I'm thankful and appreciative. I'll dig in on that in more detail on Proper Cup of Joe this Thursday. So tune into that this Thursday morning coming up. I'll be down in Des Moines, Iowa, this Sunday, vending at the Cold Blooded Expo show there. And then that's my last show for about a month. I've got one show in July, and then I won't be back out again until mid-August. So kind of last her off for me for a little bit, where I get a little summer holiday in for me, which frankly, I'm kind of feeling like I need. So Des Moines this week, you can look it up on the Cold Blooded Expo's website. Come hang out. Speaking of websites, the properroyals.com website, it should be live within a week, possibly as early as Thursday. We had talked about me announcing that on Thursday's show on Proper Cup of Joe, but some of these things, if they're not ready, they're just not ready. So we're going to work on all the plugins tomorrow, the payment for the e-commerce stuff. The Husbandry Pro plugins are already live on the back office test site that I'm able to navigate right now. So it's pretty cool. I'm excited. So just check out properroyals.com. Keep an eye on Instagram. I'll let you know when it's up and running. Huge thanks to the development team at Husbandry Pro. If you haven't, if you're not caught up on that, or you haven't been following along, that's okay. Husbandry Pro has been developing a website for me that will interact in real time with the data in Husbandry Pro. And it's my own custom properroyals.com. It's not, it's not like a band page on MySpace. It's my own properroyals.com page, fully integrated with Husbandry Pro, the e-commerce site. You can sort by everything that you can sort by on Husbandry Pro, and you can purchase directly from the site as well. So if you think that's something you'd like on your own, what I really like about it is, as good as Morph Market is, Morph Market's like a mall. You get somebody to your site and then they see 19 other snakes. If they're properroyals.com, you're going to look right at my stuff. So I'm excited for that. That'll be out very shortly. Stick around or stay tuned for that. Next week on the show, same place, same time, Corey DeLong from CD Constrictors. He'll be on next week from Daytona Beach. The following week, Jeremy Warfel will be on, and that'll be the pre-show to his little summer shindig. I will be at that. That's on July 6th this summer, Saturday after 4th of July. I'll be there in Columbia, Pennsylvania, hanging out at Warfel's Cookout that day on Saturday. And then on July 17th, we got Billy Rose on the show. So just a really banging stretch of shows, and I'm excited and thankful these guests will be on for. So that's it. Stay tuned for all of those things, and I hope that I see you somewhere, either in person or here on the show. So thanks for being here, everybody. Bob called me, I don't know, I'll have to ask him, 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, somewhere in there, out of the blue. He says, "Hey, I got a show coming up that I'm promoting. You think we could do an episode?" And I'm like, "Yeah, if you want to do an episode, you come do an episode, Bob." So tonight we're going to hang out with Bob Vu. Of course, I got a lot of questions, but I also like I like the business end of it. I like understanding the logistics of these shows. I myself have an event planning background. I was on the wedding side of things rather than Reptile Show planning. I dealt with one bride instead of 100 vendors. But I want to learn about it, and we'll dig in on some of that and hear all about that. It's always a pleasure to have Bob on the show. Please welcome back to the Proper Royal stage, Bob Vu. Bob, how you doing tonight?
What's going on?
Not too much, Mr. Bobby Boucher. I like that. I like it. Is this the first time you've unveiled that one, or is that what you've been rocking for a little bit?
I'm trying to say maybe I've used it once before. Maybe I think I might use it for my Patreon.
Oh, I got you. Okay. All right. What others you got? I should have thought of some. Next time you're on, I'm going to think of some. I'll throw some others at you, and you can rate them. I know you would judge me fairly, whether it be kind or harsh. It would be fair though. So you guys have a tornado warning over there? Yeah, we're no, not a warning, a watch. So yeah, it's like, I guess that means like it could happen, but they haven't seen any kind of deal.
We haven't had rain here in like 3 weeks. It's extremely dry.
It's all here, man. Literally the river's flooded. I live up on a hill, so that's fine. I'm good. But yeah, we've got just rain. But you got the heat though. Like how hot is it there today?
It's got to be 94 at least today during the peak. Yeah, we're in the 90s. It dropped down to 89 Thursday. Nice. And then we're back in the 90s again. For the low is 89? No, the high is 89.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, that's a reprieve then. That's good. Yeah, I moved from Jacksonville, Florida. So I mean, I'm no stranger to the heat, but yeah, it was warm here today, but I say warm. It was only like 88, so it's fine. Yeah, it's no big deal here. So, well, hey, thank you. Thanks for being on the show, Bob. I take it as a compliment that you had asked to come on and talk about your show. So tell us what you've been cooking up, man. What's this Southeast Reptile Expo all about?
Well, originally, there used to be a show in Atlanta, the Reptilian Nation show. Really good show, really well-ran show. The promoter, Ryan, runs a very good show. Atlanta probably pulled in 15,000 attendees through the door for the last two shows that they did. It's a one-time-a-year show. It's in September, and I've done well at it every time. And after asking Ryan multiple times, like, "Hey, what's going on with the show? When's the show? I need to book," and all this stuff, and my friends want to book. We got to run around a little bit, and I think he didn't want to let me know that they were having issues with the venue or whatever was going on, or maybe he just doesn't want to come back into Atlanta. His other shows are so successful. Sometimes I do feel like he doesn't want to travel as much. I mean, his California show and his Houston show brings in 18,000 people through the door. So when I called the venue to see like when the show was going to be and all that, they actually told me there's no show coming. And that show is the only Atlanta show that I've been. I don't been any Repticons or Show Me shows in Atlanta. I just feel like they're a little bit saturated. There's 4 Repticons in Atlanta a year and 4 Show Me shows in Atlanta a year. So that's each show 30 minutes from my house, or about 45 minutes from my house. And then within 2 to 3 hour drive from Atlanta, you can probably pick up another 7 or 8 shows if you want to. But the issue I'm finding is that all of them are pretty small. You're getting about 1,000 attendees, 2,000 attendees on some, and they're just not worth, in my opinion, not worth the time traveling out to do these shows.
Let me ask you, when they're those numbers on the door, is that a function of or what do you think that's a function of? Is it a function of facility space? Is it a function of marketing or lack thereof? Is it a function of the vendors there? What do you think? And really where I'm going to go is what's going to differentiate you from those shows? If there's 8 shows already, why do you need a 9th in that area?
Okay. So I'm going to explain the what I feel like how our show is going to be a little bit different and what our edge is, or our I just saw that word, so I just used it. Like what the difference is I'm only going to have one show. Basically, this is my baby. This is the show. That's the only show we're going to be promoting. All of our marketing budget, all of our social media, everything is into one show. And the show we started, we kind of like were brainstorming this idea around February, and we actually booked the venue in March. We, had all this going 6-7 months before the show before it even happens. And our advantage, or the difference in our show, is that because all of the marketing is happening for one weekend, we're spending 6 months marketing for one weekend to happen.
Right.
The difference from that to Repticon or Show Me shows, I don't know if you ever seen, but Show Me show has 200 shows in 1 year. Okay. That's one promotion, one company. They have 200 shows in 1 year. Even no matter how hard they try, they're not going to be able to promote one show extremely well. And again, you just have a lot of shows. So again, you have a lot of reach in the community, right? You're getting a lot of people in through 200 shows. All we want is one show, and I just want a bunch of people at one show. And the reason for that is the 200 shows or 50 shows a year idea was what I was doing when I first started breeding reptiles, when I first started vending. I vended 40 shows a year before. 2018, 19, I vended 40 shows every year because you just want to get your name out there. So that's what Repticon and Show Me shows, that's what they're doing now. They just want to get their name out there, want as many people to see it as possible, come through and all that. And as as my journey continued into the reptile breeding, I was like, you know what? I need to make my presence a little bit more scarce. And I need to kind of dial in and make the most out of every single time I've been a show. So we started backing off of the shows and only vending the major shows, NARBCs, Daytonas. We do Reptilian Nation, even though it's a pet type show, because I get to see 16,000 people per show. And I'm hoping that because of what we're doing here and what Troy is doing with with his show, that more focused shows, more focused promoters, they come out there and they just focus and promoting 2 shows, 3 shows, whatever it is in an area, and not overly saturated. Because right now what the problem is I'll go to a Repticon. If I go to Repticon Atlanta, which is in 2 weeks, I think 2 or 3 weeks, most of my friends aren't even excited to be there. About 5 years ago, 5-6 years ago, when there was only 2-3 shows in Atlanta, we made it a pretty big deal. When we meet up at Repticon, we meet up for dinner. We're doing, we're making it an event. But now, because there's a show every 3 weeks, no one really cares. Okay, I'll see you there. If I don't, I'll see you in 3 weeks. And I kind of wanted to bring this show to be an event. I want people to look forward to this. I want all my friends, and again, we're doing this show. People can say I'm biased and I'm having my friends vend it and all that stuff. That's kind of the point. It's a personally owned business.
There you go. Yeah.
Enjoy it. You know, I want my friends to get there, all get together and really enjoy the show. We're probably going to do 100 times more advertisement than let's say, don't want to keep bringing up Repticon because they have so many they have so many shows here, so it's easier to use their name. But because of so many shows that they have, it's harder for them to promote each one. So our idea is just we're going to blast so much advertisement in your face within the 200-mile radius that you will know about our show. If you hate reptiles, you love reptiles, whatever, you will know about the show. At least you'll know that it exists. You'll know when it is, you know where it is, you know how much tickets are. It'll be blasted so many times in their face that they're going to think at some point, you know what, let's go check this thing out. Right now we're advertising mildly. We're 90 days away from the show. So we're advertising now just so people know there's a show happening. Let's mark it on the calendar so we don't have something else going on that week. Then in about a month, we're going to go ahead, or in about 30 days, we're going to start power advertising to go ahead and get pre-sold tickets. And that's when people really start to pencil it in and really plan to get to the show. Again, I feel like that's their difference in the shows. There's no right or wrong way of doing it, in my opinion. Again, if you want to go in and as a show promoter and you're doing 50 shows a year, I don't feel like that's a wrong way of doing it. This is just my way, in my opinion, my idea of doing it. Just like breeding ball pythons. There could be a guy doing 100 clutches or a guy doing 10 clutches of really focused stuff that he likes. Right. I'm not going to say the guy that's doing 100 clutches is wrong because he's blasting out 100 clutches, but he's making money too. And he's also introducing new people to the industry and all that.
So what will be, I think most, and I've gotten to know you a little bit over the times you've been on the show and some of the financials and stuff that you dig into in your Patreon setting. What will be your definition of success? I'm sure that there's a money play here. You talked about, being a presence in the industry and being something to look forward to for your friends. But this is no small chump change undertaking either. I mean, I realize maybe Bob Vu money's a little different than mine, but that's still, you could get I'm guessing with your overhead that you're spending, you could probably get a pretty nice car in the garage if you really wanted one.
I could probably buy a second Corvette for what we're spending.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So our budget for the show, I'm not going to throw an exact number, but
of course,
it kept expanding and expanding because I didn't actually realize how much the venue was going to cost, all this stuff. By the time I called them and they gave me the number, and it was just like, so sometimes I want to go and see Bob Ashley and Brian Potter and give them a hug because they spend so much money booking these venues. These venues are $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 for the weekend.
Right.
We charge us $7,500 for Friday. For load-in day, they're charging us $7,500. So just that gives you an idea of like how much this venue overall, and then marketing, website, art. Thank God we have the best team in the world, in my opinion. The best reptile artists on the market that you can get with Addie. My buddy Daniel is doing our website and our designs on that, and all the marketing stuff we're doing in-house, between us. So it's been really good. The number in my mind, I'll tell you this right now, if I have 5,000 people come through the door, I will probably lay it down and never mention promoting a show ever again. And I don't consider myself a show promoter. Okay. I'm just going to throw it out there. I'm not a show promoter. I have one show in Atlanta, in my hometown, that I promote. That's like me owning a pair of colubrids and I'm trying to breed them. That does not make me a colubrid breeder. Okay. I have one baby that I'm trying to do.
Well, that's kind of my driving point. And I don't know, to your point, I don't know what it costs to run a convention center, but I had a pretty middle of the road, 3,000 square foot venue on a lake. And our minimum on a Saturday in the fall was $12,000 to host a wedding there for 3,000 square feet, not 3,000 people, just 3,000 square feet. I mean, I think we capped out at about 130 people. So I can only imagine and that was in the sticks of North Carolina and on a lake, not in, downtown Atlanta. So I know the overhead is If you said 5,000 would make you shut up and never speak of it again, that's the bad side. What would the good side be? Obviously, 1 million people would be amazing. But you know, are you looking for that? Is your target that 14, 15,000 you were talking about for Reptile Nation?
If you consider, and people, I've actually gotten a little bit of flack about why we chose Atlanta. Like, well, everyone's like, why Atlanta? There's already shows there. Why don't you do South Georgia, Middle Georgia, something like that? Metro Atlanta alone has 6 million people living in it.
There you go. There you go.
You know, and right now, Repticons pull in 2,000, 3,000 attendees. Show Me shows pull in 15 to 2,000 attendees per show. And I'm like, and then again, there's a lot of overlap of the same people, right? So they're pretty much pulling the same crowd. The same people that go to every Repticon's already been to Repticon and spent all their money in January. They're not going to have money again in April. They're not going to have money again in July. And so you're seeing the same people over and over. I think you see Dale from Dale Richards.
Reptiles. Yeah.
Repticon Atlanta used to be so good. I used to go to Repticon Atlanta and I know I'm making 15, 20 grand. And I was a new breeder. I was fairly new. With our setup, I know I'm making 15 grand there in Atlanta because it was 8,000, 9,000 people through the door. And they kind of backed off of their promoting because they're a big name. They kind of backed off of it a little bit and they kind of lost some bigger breeders. And the quality of the show overall went downhill. So on the plus side of the show, where I would, in my opinion, be very happy is the 15,000. I think if we had 15,000 people to do it, I would be very happy with the show. I think the 10,000 is like the middle marker where I'm just like, okay, we had a show, we had a good time. Did my vendors have a good time? I think at 15,000 people through the door, obviously I'm going to make money. But the main goal here is now we've exposed 15,000 people into the industry in a good way. Because in my opinion, we've gone through a pretty good process of vetting our vendors. We sold out within 24 hours, but I probably had to wait list 50 breeders and to kind of go through and trying to go through their Instagrams, Facebook. And again, I know most of them, so I can kind of pick and choose who I wanted for the show. I also got a little bit of heat for capping out certain species.
I was going to say, talk about the mix. It's a hot topic in the industry these days, and I've certainly touched on it as well. Talk about that. You want a good mix for the audience. I equate it to a music festival, and you're a band playing. You know, you got to hire your headliners, and you got to figure out where you're going to put yourself in. But at the end of the day, you got to put on a good show for the audience too. How do you work all that?
Because the difficulty of it is because I'm a ball python breeder, so most of my friends are ball python breeders. And people have to understand it's not going to be anything personal. I'm not saying, hey, you can't bend because I don't like you or your competition or anything like that. I have to look at it from a customer perspective of, hey, when you walk through the door, did you get to see reptiles or did you get to see a bunch of ball pythons? And some shows, honestly, when I walk through it, I'm like, wow, ball python, ball python, ball python, ball python. I understand that's the number one selling reptile. And again, that's what we breed, selling snake, but I feel like a percentage of the show being ball pythons and you want a well-represented booth, a well-represented variety of ball pythons. So we kind of went in and picked and choose. I may have to talk to Charlie later anyways. But we wanted to kind of pick and choose our breeders to the best representative for those for each species. I capped it out by a percentage. I went by percentage of as our vendor list grew. I'm like, okay, I can add one more, I can add two more, whatever. I got a little bit of flack about that because certain vendors didn't get in, obviously. But in my opinion, and I also had someone tell me, well, you're not giving small breeders a chance to vend. That is true to some degree, but then if I put in 50 ball python breeders, now the let's say chameleon breeder or a small sand boa breeder might not get in because we sold all the tables to ball pythons. That became an issue for NARBC for Tinley. That's why if you're a ball python breeder right now for Tinley, you're not getting on a wait list. Let's just be honest.
I think I was the last ball python breeder to get into Tinley.
Yeah, you're not getting a table.
I'm the last guy. That's
and they have to do that, in my opinion. For a show promoter, you have to be a little selective. You have to provide variety because you got to think there's going to be a 12-year-old kid that comes to the show. He's going to walk in and he's going to think the reptile industry is basically ball pythons. Or he can be exposed to boa breeders. We have fantastic boa breeders on the list, by the way. I have Delbano, I have Robin, I have RL, Dave from Custom Scales. I have some fantastic boa breeders there. So having that variety so that people come in and they can get the full scope of what the industry is, not just what the ball python industry is. And I feel like that's pretty important for a show. So stuff like that, it's tough because I'm trying to look at this from the perspective of a customer. Again, like I said, I'm not a promoter, so I have no idea, what I'm supposed to truly be looking for. All I know is what I would like as an attendee to see when I come to a show. I want to see variety. I want to see clean setups. I want to see obviously healthy animals and the best representation of each of those species. And sometimes I'm not sure. I might not be the right guy for this job because I am not a show promoter. But we don't know until we try. So we'll find out in 3 months.
I understand that itch. Like I said, I've got some event planning background, and part of me is like, I want to, but I wouldn't take it on at the magnitude that you are, and certainly not at the financial overhead that you are. But there's a part of me that's like, man, I want to try a little boutique kind of show, but I'll figure that's for a discussion for another day. Okay. I think that that's all fair. And again, at the end of the day, I think it does come, you got to look out for the customer, and it's not as much as I hate to say this as a ball python breeder and as a relatively new one and a very small one, it's not the promoter's job to give a platform to every ball python breeder that wants to sign up. And that's hard to say, but it's true. And I think we'll get to the alternative here in a minute. I do want to bring that up to you as well. But you got to put on a good show for the customers. I mean, that's what's going to drive everything. If you get,
there are enough ball python breeders that even if I'm going to pick and choose, let's say the 10 small ones in and let's say I'll add 30. There's still going to be another 20 that are mad at me.
Oh, you never please them all. And you can't. Mathematically, it's impossible, man. It's not going to happen that way.
And again, I vended so many small shows, shows with 500 attendees, all these shows before I got to vend my first national show, before I got the first placement in Tinley or Daytona and stuff like that. And I feel like a lot of these newer breeders, again, the comments have been great here in the chats. Yeah, you're going to have to put your mileage in. You're going to have to put your time in to vend some of the smaller shows, and then you'll get noticed as a seasoned breeder and put into the show. Like someone like, is it biased? Yes, of course it's biased to some degree, right? Canova asked, wants 2 tables. I'm not going to tell him no, right?
Right, yeah, exactly.
Canova no, so I can add in a brand new breeder to support new breeders. It's tough because Canova has such a big following. You're going to have a big crowd coming in just to see him or just to see the company and his animals. So having those guys in the industry, big guys, small guys, new breeders. I do have some new breeders. I have some that are in their second year, third year breeders that are in my Patreon. Again, that's a Patreon perk, and people are like, "That's unfair," and I'm like, "Well, yeah, I own the show, so I'm gonna hook my friends up first." It's just kind of the deal.
Yeah, I think, and this is just for anybody watching, this is very legitimate what I'm about to say. I took a lot of inspiration and a lot of sort of road mapping strategically from things that you've told me and that you've told publicly. The story of vending 40 shows in a year. I'm not going to do 40 this year, but I am doing 26 this year. And let me tell you, some of them are dumpster fires. There's days where I drive 3.5 hours and I get to the middle of nowhere and I go, okay, this is what I'm doing today. And sometimes they're a bust and sometimes they stay a bust, but other times people call me a week, 2 weeks down the line. Hey, I met you and you were really kind to me that day. And I loved your animals. They were beautiful and they stood out. It's clear you care about what you're doing. I want to buy from you. And so I don't think, coach says, make it harder for others. I don't think it's that way. If I'm hiring chefs,
in what way am I making it harder for other people?
Yeah, it's not a sign up, and I get that. And we wouldn't say that at Anik Auto Body Shop. You don't want the people working on your Corvette going, hey, I'm the new mechanic. I just signed up. I'm here for you to take care of your car, or a chef in my restaurant cooking or anything.
We only have a limited amount of vendor space. And the reason for that is because it's our first show. I don't want 200 vendors and no one makes money. You know, we want X amount of vendors based on the research we've done. How many vendors can we possibly have in this venue, not be crowded, and everyone still make money if 10,000 people come through the door, right? So we have a number. Using that number, we have to divide out, okay, this percentage of the show should be ball pythons. This percentage should be geckos. This percentage should be dry goods. When you're saying I'm making it easier or more difficult for certain breeders, and if I'm making it easier for ball python breeders by adding them all to the show, isn't that essentially making it more difficult for the other species because they can't get tables? The sand boa guys can't get tables now because they didn't book first. The hognose guys didn't get tables. The house snake guys can't get table because they don't do a 4-table setup. They can only do 1 table. It's going to be difficult for somebody. Why don't we just make it better for customer experience by having more species represented? You know?
Well, and at the end of the day, the customer experience is what trumps everything. And
Right.
I mean, it always is. It's the same, whether it's an open mic or whether it's, you know, the Southeast
I like that question where he asked, I wonder if you had that opinion 3 or 4 years ago. I did. 3 or 4 years ago, I didn't feel I was ready to vend Tinley. I was so nervous to vend my first Tinley in Daytona. The first one I was supposed to vend, I canceled. I don't feel like my animals were at the caliber that I needed to be at a national show, to be in front of national breeders. I attended 10 Daytonas, 10 or 11 Daytonas, and at least 5 Tinleys before I vended either one of them. I flew to Chicago with my wife just to scope it out and see what the competition's like. And when I pull up and I see Brad Boa and LeVance and Justin, all these guys set up, I'm like, man, I'm not ready. And I'll be honest, I wasn't ready. I had tablecloths, business cards, t-shirts, stickers, sure, all that stuff. But in my mind, I wasn't ready for the national stage. And it took me years. And then when I did my first one and we made our first sale in Tinley, and I'm like, holy crap, people actually like my stuff. And, you know, we're actually doing well. And then after a while, you feel like you fit in. But no, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, and you're like, hey, do you want to vend? Let's say 6 years ago, I started vending Daytona 5 years ago. So 6 years ago, you're like, hey, do you want a table in Tinley? I would have told you no. I would tell you.
Now, this is interesting to me because in my mind, and I think in a lot of people's mind, you hear Bob Vu, you hear, I mean, I'll say it if you won't, but I think you're an icon in the industry right now. And so how long ago was your first Tinley?
My first Tinley was actually COVID. It was 2020 was my first time I had tables. 2020, March 2020, I had tables. And I drove to Tinley and they got canceled, and we ended up doing the hotel show.
You did the hotel show, yeah.
Yeah, you put a business card on your door, and if you're ready, you know, you open the door and people come in and buy stuff. That was my first Tinley I vended. So October, so the following year was actually my first actual Tinley I vended.
So I think my point is, I think people should take some serious inspiration from that if Bob Vu's first Tinley was only 3 years ago, I mean, you can accomplish a lot in that amount of time. That's not that long. I mean, 4 years ago, you did the hotel one, but that's not that long amount of time to go by and to work hard at something. And here you are putting on your own show now, trying to compete on a national stage. And I don't think you're necessarily saying, I'm going to compete or take away money from Tinley, but using that standard and using that model as your inspiration.
Yeah, because our market is 12 hours away from Tinley, right? Atlanta to Tinley is a 12-hour drive. I know that because I make that drive twice a year. And I already talked to Brian Potter. I talked to him on the phone. He texted me, asked me if I need any help. And they're so supportive. I'll be honest, Brian Potter, Bob Ashley, Sean Gray from Herps, Wayne Hill called me the other day. They've been so overly supportive. Wayne Hill called me and asked me if I needed any help. That's
real cool.
And so these guys are offering to me to help, you know, what I need in promoting and all this, because I'm not stealing any of their customer base or their vendors or anything like that. We research dates to make sure that we're far enough away from their shows, far enough away from Daytona, make sure the vendors can get home first, get their animal set ready, and then come to our show. So I feel like because of that, I'm stealing ideas. I'm taking what I like from shows and don't like at certain shows and kind of mixing it all together. Again, I've been to 200 shows, so I kind of know what I like as a vendor and as an attendee.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the comments here, I know I keep going back to Robert because he's the one kind of poking at me, which is fine. I actually enjoy it a lot in the comments. He says he would think I would help more vendors as I've been helped before, which is true. But that's why I have the Patreon, right? I have 100 breeders alone in my Patreon alone. That means I can't even fill the show with just my Patreon. That's 100 breeders. That's going to be 100 ball python breeders undercutting each other because that's all is at the show. Remember, there's only X amount percentage of the show can be ball python. So yes, I am helping the 20, 30, whatever vendors we're going to have as ball pythons. But at the end of the day, you can't help everybody. You can't please everybody. Just like Tinley. You go to Tinley right now and ask for a table. Good luck as a ball python. Oh, any breeder, right, at this point.
Yeah, anybody. And I'm not saying that they should, and I'm not saying it in a snobby way, but yeah, you literally get laughed at when you ask. They'll say, well, okay, yeah, here, give your information, but there's nothing going on there. It's not going to happen. Let's flip the script then. Somebody that is starting out and has those feelings, what should they do? What is something they can do to build their brand? What other things that they can do? And I would say to hang your hat and your hopes on one show is a little bit foolish. And I'll say from my standpoint, to your point, it's probably too early for me to be vending Tinley. It's expensive. It's $1,500 basically for me to walk in the door vending Tinley. By the time I pay for tables, hotel, and 3 days of meals, it's at least $1,500 it costs me. So I got to sell some damn nice snakes before I even break even at Tinley. I make more on the.
I was going to ask your opinion about that. Like, do you feel like, obviously everyone wants to get into the show. Do you feel it's actually good for a new breeder, new vendor to go to a big show, have that much competition, not make any money? Is it better for them or is it worse for them to do that?
It's the only one I do that way. And I go to Tinley and I know this sounds cheesy, but I go for the relationships. There's a reason REDLINE's banner is right there at the bottom of the screen. We did a lot of business at Tinley. On the Proper Cup of Joe, there's a reason that Cold Blooded Cafe is on the banner is on there. We do a lot of business there. And same, it's a great place. Like you say, you're wearing the Portuguese Python shirt. It's a great time to see I get chills talking about it. It's a great time to see all those folks, to take care of them, to say thank you to them for their support to me. But no, I do that twice a year. And honestly, I was telling somebody, I was delivering rodents yesterday to somebody and they were asking about Tinley. And I said, honestly, I mark up my prices pretty high at Tinley, not because I think people spend more, but because if I lose all that inventory chasing prices to the bottom, I can't make money at my home shows. So Tinley is a presence. It's an expense. I don't, you brought up Troy and Nick earlier. Their Denver show is fantastic. It makes no financial sense for me to try to get into their Denver show from Minneapolis. Logistically, it is. I'm wrestling with, does it make sense for me to go down to Kansas City 7 hours from me to vend? That's probably the new one that I'm going to take the time and go to. But it's a hotel. It's 2 days of travel. It's time away from my animals. So to just hang hopes and dreams on this trinket of, bright lights, how are you going to stand out when Bob and Justin and all those guys are vending and women are vending? It's very, very difficult. It's easier to do it in a smaller market, make your name on the regional circuits and build up and get your chops together. Because there's skills to selling, man. I was terrified the first time I vended.
Yeah. So the first ever show I vended, I sold no animals. And I had already produced, I think at that point, 20 something clutches. And every person that's a breeder thinks everything they're producing is special. And it is, right? Everything you produce is special to you. It's your project, it's your animals. And when I got out to the show and I'm showing off my animals, I had kind of misshaped displays. I didn't really know what I was doing, all this stuff. I sold no animals and it hurt my pride so much. I didn't vend another show for 2 years. So 2 years later, I had displays. I had already asked enough people opinions. I just sold mostly online for those 2 years. Then I started vending with a good buddy of mine, Phil McCormick. He got me tables into a Repticon and I started vending. But I feel like when you're not ready and you go into a Tinley, you could be a great breeder, really good animals, regionally. Again, you might be the best high school basketball player. And then they throw you into the NBA.
Right.
you just sit on the bench because as soon as you get put out there, you get embarrassed, right? Or you go out there and you don't sell an animal. People don't even walk by your table because they put you next to frickin' Justin Kabilka, right?
Yeah.
My first year in Daytona, I got put by God, who was it? Burke Reptiles, a huge boa breeder. God, I'm trying to think of what is his first name. His last name's Burke. Someone in the comments. It was a big boa breeder. My first year in Daytona, no one even looked at my animals because he's such a big name, big deal. They kind of just skipped right over my animals, and I was a little disheartening. You kind of go in. But can you imagine being a first-time vendor? You told your wife you're so excited, you're going to go make some money. This is the national show. You paid $350 for one table. You have $500 in gas and fuel and car expense. You have $500 in hotel, $500 in food and alcohol. You're in for $2,000, and you sold 0 snakes, and literally no one even cared about your animals. It hurts. It sucks. Tom Burke. I was right next to Tom Burke. The first year I vended. No one even looked at my animals because he had all these awesome boas. He had these like literally bright red almost boas, these neon orange boas, and no one cared what I had on the table. And it's fair. It's fair. This was 5-6 years ago. I didn't have much in by now I'm looking back. I'm like, oh man, I thought I had Orange Dream Highways back then. I had Orange Dream Highways. And in my opinion, back then, it's like that's cutting edge. So in my opinion, sometimes yes, it's great to get all this exposure, but it also sucks when you go out there and don't make any money. For the first 3 years of Tinley, 3-4 years of Tinley, me traveling there, I just went there and handed out stickers and business cards and introduced myself. I was already building up a name in my region, in Atlanta, in Florida, in the North and South Carolina and Tennessee area. I was already a kind of an established vendor. People know me when they go to the shows, but again, no one in Tinley knows who the heck I am. So I just flew out there every year, twice a year, and handed out business cards, shook hands with everybody, just kind of introduced myself. And at the time, I was even that guy where I would whip out my phone and be like, look, I'm Bob Vu. This is what I just produced last year. Blah, blah, blah. This is OD Highway and Super OD, this. And you're showing them. And now that I'm in that position, I'm like, man, those guys were really just smiling at me going, that's pretty cool, dude.
It's the conversations when you're just like morph gene, morph odds gene, and in 10 years, and you're like, it could happen.
It's not like we or they don't care. They've been standing there for 9 hours. You're coming in at 3:30, 4 o'clock, and they were drinking the night before at the auction. Now on Sunday at 3 o'clock,
or drove 9 hours.
Look at this dinker. Look at this dinker I got. I'm going to work on this project.
Yeah, don't you think this dinker's amazing? And you're like, that could be something.
I'm so hungover right now. Just trying to look at, and some kids showing me his dinker project. Yeah.
But I do think, I think that there's a lot of value. And again, I equate things to music. There's a lot of value to getting out and playing any gig you can get. You learn how to get good. You get your chops down. You get your load in good. You figure out how you want your displays. You figure out how if you're a hard seller or a soft seller or whatever your style is. But yeah, a lot of people are like, you got to go down to Dallas. Are you doing, Schaumburg or why don't you fly into Daytona? And I'm like, I'll go hang out, but they do not make sense for me to vend. And honestly, it's hard to justify Tinley. I'm not going to give it up. So I'm going to keep doing it, but I have to build in that budget expense and my planning each year.
Right. And again, I've seen the comments like, oh, maybe just jump in and do the show. And it's great. It's fine if you want to do that. Cause I did that my first show and it was a bust. I did that Daytona. It was a bust. It's fine because it's not like I'm expecting to go in and outsell everybody or actually make any real money. I wanted the experience mostly, to see what it's like at the national level, and do all of that. But the difficulty part is like even getting in. So it sounds great. Oh, I'll just book a table in Ben Tinley. It sounds great. Then they're going to tell you, oh, we need you to Ben Schaumburg or Dallas or this show, then we'll give you a table. Because that's pretty much what's going to happen right now. If you're vending Schaumburg or St. Louis, then they're like, okay, cool. This guy's vending our other 2 smaller shows. We'll give him a table at Tinley. So it's not just so simple as, oh, I'll just book Tinley.
That's right.
So that's the difficulty too for a new breeder. And it is difficult. I do feel bad because again, 10 years ago, it wasn't as difficult. Shows weren't as difficult to get in. But now it's, you know, today calling a major show to get in as a ball python breeder is a little bit difficult.
You said something earlier that I think people should really listen to from a, like, looking behind the scenes from a promoter standpoint. You talked about vetting vendors, and I think some people took that in a negative way, but then you got specific. You look at their Instagram, you look at their displays, you look at how clean their animals are, you look at their presentation. Is that going to represent your brand? Because at the end of the day, everybody knows this is Bob Vu's show. You're the one doing, you're the face doing the show, man. And I think breeders like myself in my position or coming up should really, really think about that. And all that you do, always present yourself, because you never know who's going to look and what opportunities you want. And it's not as simple as, oh, here's my name, here's my check, and I'm in. And
right. It's difficult, right? Because when you're the owner, and again, like I make my guys wear uniform, or almost uniform. I just say, hey, khakis or you know, nice shorts and our company shirt when you vend. When you vend my tables, I'm not going to have you come out there looking scraggly or hungover or whatever, because that you're representing my business.
That's right.
And essentially now the vendors are representative of the company overall. The vendors, when someone comes to a show and they see a dead lizard on a table, they're not going to remember it was John's Reptiles or whatever. They're going to say, I went to the Southeast Reptile Expo and there was a dead lizard on the table.
Yeah, look at the whole controversy right now with the Vans advertisement. Nobody knows who owns that snake. It's Vans eating it right now.
Get hit because they posted a dead freaking bumblebee on top of a freaking shoe that was supposed to advertise cobras or something like that. It was something
right.
Like that.
It was really, that was an unforced error on their part. Absolutely right. Foolish.
And it's like, so having vendors there, and again, if anybody in the comments or anybody listening to this or anybody even gets mad at knowing that a promoter is vetting their breeders and vendors, maybe you don't have a place in this industry. I'll just be honest. You should want your promoters to vet the vendors, the breeders, the animals, especially. If I get to the show, again, I'm going to vet through all the vendors. I already talked to all the vendors. I know a lot of them personally. I've seen their displays. I've seen their animals, most of them. And gone through their Instagrams and all that. But if I get to the show and you have a sick animal or something on the table, as a promoter, you should be able to speak up and just say, hey, man, this is unacceptable. And
that's right.
Don't come back.
Yeah.
And my vendors will know that ahead of time. So
I agree with that. And I think it's a good point you just made. People don't remember the specific vendor. They remember it was the Southeast Reptile Expo that the problem was at. Yeah, very good. Colorfully vulgar. First off, welcome. I don't think I've seen you here before, so thank you for coming tonight. Did you say there's a new show in KC? No, there's not a new show. It's a Cold-Blooded Expos. They kind of do the I-35 corridor for show promotion. And they've been great to vend at. I do very well with them. I just vended this weekend in Minneapolis with them. I've probably done 7, 8, or 10 of their shows now. And I've been less excited about the market in Wisconsin. So I'm cutting out Green Bay, and I think I'm going to look down to Kansas City and give this promoter another shot there in that market. I've not been in that market. So I've got to look into that. But again, it's more math. It's that'll be probably 3 days away from my animals. And then I've got a hotels, gas, stress, all that kind of stuff to factor in on that. So that's what I was talking about. But I'm on, if you're in that area, I am on there. I'll be vending in November for sure. I think they have one in either August or September. I might jump on. I'm considering that. So that's that detail. Not a new show that I know of though, but Cold-Blooded Expos, I've had a great experience with. Let's see, Bob, it's almost, speaking of promotion, it's almost Bill's time. After we give a couple shout outs here, I want to ask you about what you're investing in these days. Switch gears a little bit, both from an animal standpoint, and I know you're quite a serial entrepreneur. I'd like to know what else you're investing in. So stick around, audience. I'm going to ask Bob those questions right after this. I want to say hello to REDLINE Shipping. If you're not familiar with REDLINE, you should be. Check out their website. First, you'll see it's very easy to use. Their service and care for your animals is unparalleled. These are reptile people caring for your reptiles. Check them out. Use the promo code PROPER5 and get $5 off of your next shipping label. Shedtesting.com. That's Charlie at Gray Rider. What a story. If you haven't heard it, you should check out some of the episodes that he's done with me. Really upended, disrupted the shed testing industry. He's doing it right, creating his own tests. Check out shedtesting.com. Use the promo code proper15. You're going to get 15% off of 2 shed test orders, not 2 shed tests. You can order quite a few tests and get 15% off. You will see the customer service and the speed with which you receive your results to be incredible and definitely a differentiating factor. Argen Reptiles, that is Robbie out in Greer, South Carolina. Robbie's season is just getting underway. No hatchlings yet, but he's on the way. Robbie is working DG, Pied, Clown, and Dark Gene projects, doubles, triples, DG with genes like Blackhead and Stranger. Go check out his website. That is argenreptiles.com, and join his mailing list. That's where he puts his availability first. And he's also got mailing list perks. Doesn't cost you a penny. And it's a great little community that he's got built there. Great guy to do business with. Portuguese Pythons, that's Danny and Renee Rocha out in Chino, California. They are working beautiful double and triple recessive projects. I have a 1.3 of Ultramel Pied combo projects from them with Blackhead Trick in the mix. So you should see about a year from now, you should see the results of some of those. In the meantime, go check out their Instagram, and you could see them at the LA Pet Fair. I think, no, the, what's it called? It is the LA Pet Fair, June 29th and 30th. And that is in LA. Go see them. That's Danny and Renee Rocha. They've been amazing to work with. And again, just beautiful animals. Check out their Instagram. Trevor at Ball Labs out in Aurora, Colorado. Trevor is working any and everything that he can get his hands on. A lot of us talk about having focus and focused projects to really work. Trevor likes a little bit of everything. If there are unique genes or a little lesser known genes, check it out. He's probably got them, and he's probably doing cool stuff with them. Excellent guy. And also, if you're looking for rodents in Colorado, he's one of a very small handful. And I say small, I mean 5 or 6 people actually licensed to breed, sell, and distribute rodents in Colorado. He's doing things the right way, and he's been a great supporter of the show. You should check him out. Last but not least is Chris at B and S Reptilia. If you're saying to yourself, Adam, how did you get that table at Tinley? What did you have to do for that? What I had to do for it was partner with somebody that sold stuff other than ball pythons, and that is Chris. Chris is my partner at Tinley, as well as a good friend and a longtime mentor, and the original sponsor of any Proper Royals content. So hugely thankful to Chris. Chris is working ball pythons, but also locality boas, Pituophis, colubrids. If you have any questions about any of those, please get in touch with Chris. First, he'll help you out. Second, he might sell you a beautiful animal. Last, if you are into Pituophis, Chris will have the licenses and permits to bring the bull snakes and pine snakes to Tinley. We should be, I would think, one of the only people in the room with those species. And of course, they'll be legal and properly permitted. So we hope to see you there in Tinley. Thank you to all the sponsors for looking out for me. You advertising partners, you make all the difference to me, and I'm incredibly grateful. Guys, all of their descriptions or all of their links are down below in the description if you'd like to support them, and mean a lot, even if you just go check them out. And also, Bob Vu's link is down in the description, his website, which I found leads you straight to his Morph Market page today. But also the Southeast Reptile Expo links are also down in the description. Hanging out with Bob Vu tonight. We've been talking about that Southeast Reptile Expo. And Bob and I, he's been on the show before, and I'm real thankful to have Bob here. Bob, I know that you always like to explore, dabble, check out, itch that entrepreneurial itch. What are you after these days? What else are you investing in? What's on your horizon? What are you cooking in your mind these days?
I mean, currently it's the show, because it's actually more time consuming than I imagined. Mostly because it's our first show, right? We have website design and ticketing and t-shirt orders and stickers. There's just like so much that goes into it that I never thought about. And I'll be honest, we filled out the vendor list like 3 weeks ago. I haven't invoiced anybody. I haven't even charged anybody for tables. We're so behind on that. We're sending out invoices tomorrow. Um, I actually sold my nail salon 3 weeks ago. So I got out of that because,
Congratulations.
yeah, thank you. My
I didn't realize you were
mother-in-law,
still, have you been operating that the whole time?
I've
I
owned
mean,
it
maybe not you
for
personally, but you've owned it.
I've owned it for 8 years. Holy crap! I've owned that nail salon for 8 years.
Wow. Is that the first full business? Did you sell it as a business or did you liquidate everything or how did
We
that
sold it as a full
transaction?
business with everything included, employees that were there or staying there with the new owner. Mainly because my in-laws were like managing it for me, and now they're retiring. They're moving. Actually, they moved 8 miles away from my house. So my father-in-law actually drops off lunch every other day here for me. It's been pretty
Oh,
nice.
nice.
Yeah, we haven't really cooked much since they moved up, but that's why. So we sold the salon. It kind of like I'm looking at this chunk of money and I'm like, well, that venue, whatever. And I was like, okay, let's go ahead and put deposit on the venue. Um, and I've been kind of consumed into the show, like with the show. I'll call my buddy Daniel, and we'll sit on the phone for 2 hours while we're playing Diablo and just talk about the show, what we want, what we're envisioning, what we want to do. And right now, I'll be honest, huge shout out to all my Patreon members and being so patient with me not posting on there as often as I should, and almost like I feel like sometimes I almost feel like they're currently the redheaded stepchild that I'm ignoring. I'm not. I'm not ignoring them like on purpose by any means, but like every day I'm like trying to respond to all these emails. And I'm like, oh, I need to hop onto the Patreon and respond to some messages and help ID. But so after this week of our invoicing and getting all that done, and you see all the marketing materials behind my desk here. I have 100 banners and 10,000 flyers on my behind my desk right here that we have to put out,
Oh, man.
and 500 posters that we just ordered, and I think 10,000 stickers.
Hang on,
So
500 posters. Where did you say 500 or 5,000 posters?
500 posters.
500 posters. Where are those where does something like poster feels really old school? Where are those going to be sold at the show or are those for
No,
marketing
those are
before the
100%
show?
for marketing. So every restaurant, so we know a lot of restaurants, so they're going to go out to all the restaurants. All the pet stores are going to get 3 or 4 of them a piece to put onto the windows. We already start putting them out this week. So one of the pet stores already sent me pictures of it on his window. The posters I'm not too concerned about because most people are willing to just hang a poster on the window for 2 months and we'll come back and remove them. It's the banners. I ordered 100 6-foot wide banners that the ones that go on the side of the road. We ordered them 6 foot wide, 3 foot tall, and like bright blue,
Uh-huh.
and very easy to read. But the problem is, I'm like, the city might tear them down. There's a lot of private property you have to ask for permission. And I was thinking in my head, I'll start off with 100. I was going to order another 100 after we put out this first 100 banners. So it's a lot of stuff like that that's been consuming my time. But honestly, shout out to my Patreon. They've been so patient. And again, a lot of them, I feel like at least 20, 30 of my members are in there just for the credit. And they really don't care about anything we have to say in there in the chats. But,
Right. And those are good. I have those. Those are good members. They're just building their store credit.
Some of the best members because
That's great,
there's
right?
no maintenance. There's zero maintenance members. Again, I love my other members that are very chatty. My Patreon general chats group will have 200 messages a day, literally 200
Wow,
posts a day.
yeah.
And then the investors group will have 100 posts a day, and the miscellaneous snakes group will have 50 messages a day. And right now, because of the hatching season, that what's hatching group is going to have 50 to 60 messages a day of people just posting pictures of what they're hatching. So I try really hard every night to kind of log on, and every morning to log on and talk to everybody. But honestly, I feel like now I need to focus more time into that, dedicate more time, especially during hatching season, to help a lot of our members ID stuff, help them push their sales. And do our one-on-ones. Like Josh still pays attention. Hey, Josh does a great job of driving to town to get online, to get on the Patreon. So it's been great. He lives in the middle of nowhere. He has like no signal. So every time we do a call,
that's very hard to do these days. It's actually harder to be in that situation than the alternative.
right? That's dedication to staying off the grid. Honestly, that's so much dedication.
it's difficult to get off the grid now. Hey, what platform do you use for your various? You listed, I think, 4 or 5 different chat groups under the Patreon umbrella. What is that on Discord? What do you use?
It's on Discord, yeah. So on
Discord.
Discord we have different channels for everything, and
Yep.
then so we have multiple tiers in the Patreon. Realistically, though, people only sign up for two separate tiers. Basically the intro, the keeper, and then there's the investor tier. And there'll be separate chats that are like, some of the chats are only available to the investment level, but most of everything happens in the general chats and stuff like that. We actually opened up basically a for sale section. Like basically we have stuff for sale. You can post it just for the Patreon. I had a member made $4,000 on the first week we opened it, and he goes, "Cool, I guess I'll just stay in the Patreon forever now." Because it paid for his membership for the next, however many years. And I'm like, oh, great. I'm glad. I want everyone in my Patreon to make money. If you signed into the Patreon, again, the goal of the Patreon wasn't to recruit everybody. We don't want everybody. I can manage everybody. We want those specific, pretty specific 100 people that already spend money with us, already like us enough to keep hearing us BS about ball pythons, and to help these people survive their first 5 years in the industry, the most important 5 years. A lot of naysayers in their ear, or they go to a show and have a bad show, and I can help them weed out certain shows that I don't feel they should be doing. I'll tell Patreon members straight up, don't drive to Hoboken, Alabama. There's only going to be 300 people to the door, and you drive 6 hours. Certain things like that, because they just want to get their name out there, and I totally understand that. But to drive 6 hours, take away time from your family and animals to see 300 people, it's just not worthwhile. So a lot of things like that, and our goal in the Patreon is not people think like we're doing this Patreon to make money. 100% of the Patreon proceeds go back to the members and credit, plus we give away more credit. So we're not really in there to make money. We wanted like a little community for us to like hang out with people, and it's been actually great. I had my birthday party on last Saturday at my house as a Patreon party, and we had 60 people at my house. It was 50 something, 60 people. It was a little,
that's cool.
Wild. Yeah.
Oh, I think it goes back to something I've discovered in a very limited sample size of my Patreon experience has been, make the experience, make the community, the rest of it will take care of itself. And I think you brought up a really good point. The business that Patreon members do with each other. I know a lot of mine sell rodents to each other. Some of them happen to be local in Florida because that's where I started. And it's funny because now I'm starting to see a local Minnesota scene where some of them are selling racks to each other because they're here local to each other. People got to look below the surface, whether it's a show or Patreon. There's so many ways to get your name out there and to do good business, and to like, good business to me is more than just a transaction of money. It should be, obviously it should feel good and be between good people doing good things, but it'll be a relationship that goes on. And that's what I'm seeing in mine. And that's sort of was the aha moment for me on Patreon. It was like, Adam, just facilitate these people doing the very best things that they can with whatever resources they have. And that's been a neat experience for me. And I'm glad that you brought up that word community in Patreon. I think that's pretty cool too.
Yeah, the community is so important in my opinion. The community part is almost as important as your husbandry, or just your connections in this industry is going to keep you in. Having your friends in this industry keeps you in the industry. When you're having the worst absolute month of your ball python breeding career, which will eventually happen, right?
Yes.
You go in there, your best animal in the world just lugged out, and then you had overheating in your rat room. You went in there and there's 400 dead rats, and you're calling around, no one has rats and all this stuff, and you just want to quit. And I'll be honest, that has happened to me multiple times in my career. I have gotten to the point where my last rat building had 2 AC units, one on each side, and a center vac fan in case a unit goes out, because I've lost so many rats in my career. I've had so many instances where a unit goes out or overheating or stuff like that because I wasn't prepared for. And it makes you want to quit. When you go out there and you gotta find, put on a mask and go out there and bury 500, 600 bloated rats, and it's 92 degrees outside, it makes you want to quit the industry. And having good friends and
it's an awful story.
Oh my God. Terrible smell. And you can envision it. You can almost taste it, right? But you can it does make you want to quit. A lot of times, stuff like that, or having a really nice animal slug out or die or something like that on you, having a nice community to help you, like in those situations. Because back then, when I have this really nice Georgia community. I had all my rats die. I messaged my friends, and they drove rats down to my house. Like, cool, we'll bring some rats to you. We'll bring you some breeders. I think Courtney. I talked to Courtney when she was at my house last week. She was needing rats. And just so happened, one of our Patreon members breeds rats near her that had rats for her.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly the type of thing. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, Dale does know all about the rats.
Yeah, the rats. I mean, rats is like probably the worst and the most profitable part of our business, right? The rat people. And it's the one thing none of us actually want to do in the industry, like breed rats, but
even I swore, I still have people that I've had rodents, I don't know, 8-9 months now, but I still have people walk up to me and they're like, "Oh, you're never going to touch rodents, huh, Adam?" I'm like, "I know, I'm wrong. I'm here to say I was wrong. I have them, and I only have ASFs. And I wouldn't say I thoroughly enjoy them. I more enjoy them than dislike them. I'm really still enjoying the benefits, or new to the benefits of being able to go, hey, this girl's at 25 and she's still slamming food. Let me go out there to the rat shed right now. It's right there. Boom. Here you go, girl. You want another? Just keep those eggs coming. Don't push those eggs away. That's all it is, So I really, I'm on board. And you're right. They're profitable. And even my small customer base, I can't keep up with what they want. A guy put in an order today. I said, "Look, man, you can't, these one-offs of this size, I can't just do one-off orders this big. Like,
we don't produce enough rats to sell right now. And even if I'd have to produce 2,000 or 3,000 more rats a week, and about 2,000 or 3,000 more mice a week to sell to everyone around here that's inquired.
Yeah.
So right now people are inquiring. I just say I don't have enough because my females are all, slamming food because they're developing and stuff like that. And we have babies hatching every day. So it's just not enough feed. And I wish I could triple our rodent production right now, because I'd be raking it in right now.
Well, let me clarify. I am expanding. I am growing. I want to have customers inquiring, but yeah, I had somebody today. They said, "Well, I'll take 300 next week." And I'm like, I don't have 300 larges next week for you. I will. And especially if you can make it a monthly order, then I'll just plan accordingly. But
what Nixon is saying right there, is a huge thing.
Yes, you're right. Yeah.
Your whole business or hobby or venture or investment on somebody else. You're depending on someone else producing enough rats, because I've been in that position where I call them and they say, "Hey, we don't have rats this week. Oh, we don't have any pups. I guess my grow outs aren't eating. We don't have mediums. We only have smalls." And I'm like, I have 4,000 gram females.
Yeah.
So being at the mercy of somebody else, determining your season does suck. And we don't ever want to be in that position. So that's why we're, in the position we are now. Thank goodness.
Yeah. And Brandon's exactly right. And just if people can't relate to the numbers Bob's saying, for myself, even with, about 200 snakes, producing my own ASFs, even if I didn't sell a single one, is going to be, I will say that I do sell it. With what I'm selling and what I'm not having to buy, it's going to be about a $16,000 swing this year versus last year, to the good. And that's real money. I mean, all of us would admit that's real money, whether you have 200 snakes or 2,000. I mean, 16 grand is a good chunk of change. So, I really do. If you have the means to do it, I would at least explore it. But again, I swore for years I wouldn't do it. So I get it. But here I am. I never thought. Here I am slinging ASFs. Bob, let's talk about, because people love this kind of stuff too. Let's talk about some, even though we were joking about it earlier, let's talk about some morphs. What's exciting you these days? What combos are you feeling like are obviously good for you? You don't have to, we wouldn't want everybody to jump on every bandwagon out there, but what's got you excited these days?
Everybody's chasing double, triple recessives, and again, understandably so, right? The more difficult a combo is to produce, the longer it will hold value. That's just the reality of things. That's why co-dominant genes lose value faster over time. But I would never tell someone not to do it. Like, like, oh, I don't want to buy a co-dom because next year it'll be dropping 30% in value. Like, sure, produce 10 of them. So co-dom genes, in my opinion, like strangers, I really do love strangers. And the stranger Xanthic, stranger clown, stranger, all of those things, I really do still like.
Yeah, I did see your stranger Xanthics you just posted, man. Nice. Yeah.
Oh, I sold one as soon as we posted. I sold one to a guy in Florida, and he he sent me a video of him opening it, and he was like super excited, and he was like, "This animal is so hard to represent on photo." And I was like, "I know, it's a black and white snake. I'm trying to take a picture of it on a colored background. It's so difficult to photograph certain animals." But when I'm a little bit, I won't say annoyed. Sometimes it kind of like irks me when people go on, making these videos and they're like, don't buy codoms, only buy recessive, only do double, triple, quad recessives because codoms will lose money. So when Courtney and when you and Steven were talking between the Sunset Project, right? And someone in the comments said, well, imagine if he would have bought Stranger instead, he wouldn't be in such a great position now. Well, that stranger, if he would have bought that stranger that year and produced 10 more next year and 30 more the year after that, he would have been in the same position. He would have been in a great position either way. Jason almost did the same thing. I think Jason paid $30,000. Don't quote me on this. $30,000 for a stranger male. This was 2000. I want to say either 19 or 20. He was one of the first ones. He's the stranger guy. And Jason, and then we're all thinking in our head, I'm like, man, this guy paid a lot of money for a codominant gene. Well, the next year we all bought it. We all paid him 10 grand.
That's true. Yeah.
10, 15 grand. I didn't buy it until the third year. The third year of him producing it, where I'm like, okay, this thing's legit. I want a stranger. And we still paid him 10 grand for it. And he's already made 50 of these things. So yes, it's a codominant gene. Yes, you know the reality of the price drop. You know it's happening, but because you know that, you can plan for it. You know that this animal will drop about 30% by next year. As long as you can get this animal to produce and make new combos, the goal is not to produce more strangers. You need to produce stranger hets and stranger with other codoms and see what's pretty. And again, I feel like sometimes people are like, oh, I bought this snake and it lost value already. I'm like, yes, because your goal is not to produce more pastel DG clowns. You bought a pastel DG clown. Yes, it lost value in the next 2 years. Your goal is to now make pastel stranger DG clowns, pastel Xanthic DG clowns or hets or whatever. And that's where your value is, so.
And that's exactly the value of codoms, because we see, I go, and I don't pick on it because I love the combo, but it's factually true. A clown pied that looks amazing, but has no codoms in it, that has tanked. A clown pied with even Enchi in it has held its value very nicely. Now, part of it's that it's more complicated to make, but in my opinion, I think it's because it's a springboard to so many more things you can do with it, especially if you start grabbing, even fire or pastel, just what a lot of people would call basic genes that do amazing things in pied are going to do great in that.
Because I've had people inquire, and I do watch a lot of podcasts and videos and stuff about snakes, and obviously the follow on to the market. And I do see people go, "Oh, you shouldn't buy any codoms. Don't worry about buying codoms. Just buy recessives only." And I'm like, well, I understand where you're thinking. Okay, down the road, I want to make this ultramel puzzle clown pie, whatever. So you're gonna need all these recessives. I'm like, are you not ever planning on adding any codoms to these? Because that's essentially going to move your project forward, right? Leviathans, they made the red stripe sunset. You have to at least at some point had a red stripe het sunset, to make a red stripe sunset. In order to make a Batman, you have to at least at some point had a leopard spot nose head clown.
Right.
It's just part of the reality, and I feel like people are chasing these triples and quads, and again,
Well, I think to add to that, and not to be a jerk to anybody, but if you look at the value of especially males, triple and quad recessives, it would blow your mind compared to what people thought they could get for them just 2 years ago when they started buying double visual to double visual to try and produce their quads. they were investing tens and 20 of thousands of dollars. And I'm not going to call anybody out. They'd call themselves out. But there are people that I know that will literally give away triple and quad recessive males just because it's not worth trying to explain and get the money back for what people just don't want them. And so,
I mean, what is a value in a quad het male, let's say hypo clown pied desert ghost? What is that value in your mind that you can quantify and explain to me why I should buy that quad het male?
No, to me, it doesn't. I think it's a trinket that people thought, hey, these are new. I could do that. Nobody else has done it. And because nobody else has done it, it's exciting and expensive. Like you say, from a practical standpoint, even with genetic testing, the odds on any triple or quad het are so far, unless you have a visual triple or quad. Like if you got a triple or quad het visual, which
you were not going to use a quad het male on.
No, you're not. You're still not going to do that, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Dale's like, I'll call it out. Exactly.
Yeah, it's like our job as like seasoned breeders is to help newer breeders protect their investment, and that's not buying a quad het male and breeding it, like buying that quad het male and breeding it to a pied. That's not a good investment from a investing standpoint. And he's like, oh, I'll just shed test all the babies. I'm like, your odds are still 1 out of 8 to produce a pied het for the others. Having to see which one it is and do it's just not good business. So those quad het males, triple het males, double het DG clown male, like a male normal double het DG clown, you might as well wholesale. I'll be honest at this point, just sell it off as a normal.
Well, and you got. The other thing too is it's just the literal amount of time, all those generations it's going to take you to actually produce something with that animal. Well, you're going to go broke. You may as well spend the 20 or 30 grand on a triple or quad visual when you factor in the time.
Quad het, man. More power to you. I don't have that type of gamble in me, and we love to gamble, but I don't have that type of gamble in me.
There's a song lyric that goes, there's a difference between tempting and choosing your fate. Choose your fate better than that part than trying to tempt that. So, okay. So, what, any specific genes that you're excited about? I know you said you're still pumped about Stranger and what's going on, with your Axanthic stuff. What else has got you, excited to get into your snake room or to cut eggs this year?
I got very unlucky on my Sunset DG stuff. We kind of bricked out on all the pairings. Yeah, it just, again, it happens in every project. When you're working double recessive, you're going to be prepared for heartbreakers. And then last year I did double het to double het, make DG tri-stripes, so for the last 2 years. So, oh man, I have so many new genes that I'm working with that I'm excited about. I have the gorilla gene currently being rotated. I have a new gene that we got in from Africa called Distortion. I'm still on the fence about the name. I'm okay with the name. I'm not in love with it yet. But it already came in with a name, so we kind of just kept it on the name tag. And if you were in the Patreon and you came to my house last week, you would have seen the Crackhead project. That's pretty cool.
Wait. So you don't like Distortion, but you're into Crackhead?
I bought these 3 animals. I came to this guy's house and I saw these animals labeled as ? Spot nose. And I opened the tubs and I said, hey man, what are these? And he goes, I don't know, they're spot noses. I said, they're not spot noses. They look like so funky, so weird, really nice animals. There's 3 different combos of them. And I said, do you have the parents? And he goes, I'll be honest, I was so high I sold them and I don't know who they went to.
Oh, so
I took the animals and now they are literally labeled on my rack as Crackhead 1, Crackhead 2, and Crackhead 3. Yeah,
that's a great story. That is oh man, I hope that they blow up because that story is that'll go down in like the
I'm gonna need a new marketing person to rename that project once we prove it out genetic.
And not to trash the person, how did you end up in this person's facility?
He sold me some animals that were hets that genetically tested out as not hets. And I basically said, I'm going to come get my money back, or I will come and take animals. I said something's going to happen, but I already know where you live. I sent him the picture of his house, and he was very receptive. He says, "Yes, come on by. I really messed up." Blah 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 blah. And I'm not gonna name who this is, but
No, yeah, I don't even want that on my show, but
used to be a very well-known breeder.
Oh, okay. All
very
right.
well-respected breeder at one point in his career. And again, we were good friends. We were good friends. And
Okay, I
it
got
just
you.
happened he was in a bad place, a bad time, and sold me bad hets, bad animals. And so that's how we ended up squaring up, was just taking animals in return.
I got you. I got you. So yeah, okay. So my apologies. There's a little more nuance if it was an old friend.
Oh God, Dale, don't do it.
Yeah. Oh no. Okay. Well. Well. So we'll keep an eye out for the crackhead project on there and the combos. Okay. All right, guys. Geez.
I'll be honest, like people think so some of us like been in this industry for so long, like people won't get one over on us. I've been scammed so many times in this industry. I'll be honest with you. I've had so many animals not approved, or people sold me BS hets because they know I will buy it because I love a good deal. And if you call me and you say I have a breeder female clown het DG, I'm gonna buy it. It's like the deal is too good, I will do it. And he had 3 triple het DG Xanthic clown breeders, and I was like, I'm in. 15 grand, I'm in, whatever it was. And yeah, again, I've been had a lot of times in this industry, and again, that just still worked out good, so it's okay.
Well, and knock on wood, I've not been, but I've also not spent that kind of cash in the industry. It's a small industry. I've had one brush where I bought something that this is a really vague story, but I bought something that through only like 2 generations of separation, somebody else had actually paid for, and the guy disappeared and resold that item to me. And it turns out this was 1,200 miles away that I purchased it. And it turns out the original guy that got ripped off was right in my same market. Wow. Fortunately, he realized I'm not the problem in this situation, but it's a small industry. You could see 2 or 3 other people echoing those concerns in the chat.
Man, just in my Patreon alone, 2 people were scammed, and 1 got contacted and almost got scammed. Because I'm so transparent with my Patreon, the week that it happened, I posted in the Patreon and told him exactly who it was, what happened, so that our 4th member actually did not send his money, thank goodness. But we had 2 other members, and both got their money back, thank goodness. And a close friend of mine in Atlanta, I'm not going to name who it is, Paco, also got hustled for some some money. And then another friend in, I remember where he is, up north, also got hit for, I think, 15,000. So quite a few of us got hit. And it happened all within a span of about a month. So everyone found out at the same time. When I genetic tested my animals and called everybody at the same time that bought animals.
Oh, that's how you're able to get your posse together then, huh?
Mine is easy. My posse is easy. I just call my guys and say, hey man, I got screwed on some money, and they're all,
I got an issue. Yeah.
Yeah. I got an issue, and everyone's just ready to roll.
There was a close family member when I was 11 or 12 that owned a guitar shop, and the partner went sideways on things. And it definitely was the family going, hang on, we're going to rent a box truck, and we'll go get every bit of your inventory back. And we're going to take a little bit extra for your trouble. And we're all going to shake hands at the end of it. This other person will understand clearly. So I don't, I don't necessarily advocate for that, but if you're going to rip people off, you better be ready for that sort of response from people, though, too. I will say that there's no place for that nonsense.
And again, I told him, hey, man, we're going to handle this like gentlemen. Unless you don't want to, then we will handle it a different way. And he said, hey, man, whatever you want to do, we'll square it. And we did. He was very, apologetic, very, I don't want to say remorseful, but, we got everything straightened out. So that was good.
All right. Bob, where can people see you before September 14th and 15th at the Southeastern Reptile Expo?
So I'll be in Schaumburg in a few weeks. Are you going to be at that show or no?
I'm not. I didn't know you were vending there. Very cool.
So I'll be in Schaumburg in 3 weeks. I'll be in Puerto Rico next week for a meet and greet. If you're in Puerto Rico, I'll be there. I said,
is there a show? Is there a show in Puerto Rico?
There is no show. There is a gun show. Oh my God. There's a gun show.
The singlet show? You're going to put on the tighties there?
Yeah. So I'll be going to Puerto Rico on Friday morning, and our meet and greet is Friday afternoon. So just message me if you're there and want to meet up. And then I'll be in Schaumburg in 2 weeks after that. And then we have Daytona in August. And that is a great show for anybody that wants to just go hang out and have a good time. Daytona is a really fun time.
Daytona is a blast. I can't make it this year. My dad lives just up the road. I really want to just come visit.
Dale, you gonna tell them about the Tinley tables? Oh, I'll go ahead and tell it to everybody that don't read the chats. Whoever this breeder.
That's right. Yeah, let's protect my brand for just a moment here. This unknown person, right? This unknown person. Here, yeah.
Because the person that called the cops went to my table about it, and it's a good customer of mine. So a good customer of mine comes rolling in. We're setting up. He comes in with 2 stacks of displays, and he goes, "Hey, I'm looking for my tables." Blah 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 blah. I'm like, "All right, what number is your table?" And he goes, "Well, Daniel booked it, and I bought tables from him, and I paid him $800 for the tables." And I said, "Dude, this dude ain't vended this show in 3 years. You ain't getting no tables." And so this guy came in with displays full of animals, drove like 12 hours there, and nowhere to vend. And I felt so bad. I wanted to give him one of my tables, but I was already slam packed. And thank goodness we were lucky enough. We were standing there with Chris Nettles from Sea Serpents, and Chris actually just cleared off some racks and gave him some space to vend in right there. And that was amazing. But then he ended up filing charges against this mysterious breeder. And yeah.
Wow. Well, but again, it's too small of an industry and too small of a market to pull that stuff. Even with my experience, the guy that I ran into that it turned out had been robbed, I was like, here's his address. Here's all his contact info. Here's where this came from. Yep. Get the law on it right now, man.
Oh, literally within 2 messages of me telling people I got screwed on the deal and showed him, someone sent me his address like instantly. I had a picture of his house, his address within 10 minutes.
Yeah. Well, and in this day and age, you really can't hide. I mean, there's public records. If somebody wants to know where I live, like I own my property, like it's not, so don't screw around, people. Do it the right way.
Yeah, it's wild. And again, the scams in the industry have been going on forever. Oh my God, some of the worst ones. I've seen some of the worst ones. People use wart remover on ball pythons' heads to make them scaleless heads. I've seen some crazy stuff.
Oh my gosh.
Back in the day, the red ball, I don't remember if you remember the red ball fiasco when they dyed the ivory. Someone
I do know that one. Yeah.
They cut an
egg, Kool-Aid or something,
and used food coloring and dyed it red, and then sold the het red balls for like 50 grand or something ridiculous. It was there's been some crazy scams throughout the industry over the years.
I don't like, I can't even say it out loud, but like the response that certain people will have, like you'll end up dead. Like you can't.
There's been one guy in the industry that I know of that disappeared off the face of the earth after a scam, but I'm not gonna speak ill of the dead. So
yeah,
he just disappeared. Honestly, no one knows what happened to him. But
well, maybe he's living in a
breeder out of like 40 grand. And again, man, we're talking big money here. I know people have been stabbed over $20, so 40 grand, they gonna hire somebody to come get you.
They're gonna, if that's true. If somebody's got 40 grand to put on a snake, they got some other money to do some other stuff with.
God, I just watched this movie the other day called Hitman. You can hire a hitman for cheap. I'm just throwing that out there.
Bob knows a guy. He's just
knows a guy.
Bob, thank you so much for hanging out tonight, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate you coming on the show. You know as well as I do that you bring some ratings, so I thank you very much. Thanks for the opportunity, and I hope you do great at the show, man. I want to hear how it goes. I'd love to do a follow-up episode. Keep going. I want to hear what I think all the neat stories of like just what you learn along the way, or the 500 posters you got to figure out what to do with, or the banners that you got to make sure aren't on city property. Like all that goes into it. This is a real stuff that you're doing. So thanks for sharing, man.
Amazing learning experience so far, and will be continue to be. We've been very fortunate that everyone's been so supportive. Even some of the people that didn't get into our show, one of the pet stores nearby that didn't get in because we can only have so many pet stores vetting, you know, like with their dry goods. They're willing to put out posters for us and put out flyers, but we're going to advertise all the local pet stores. It gets hitman. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So we've been very fortunate to have so much support from the community, other breeders, other show promoters. That's been the craziest thing is, you know, Brian Potter texting me and Sean and Wayne, all these guys messaging me to help us out with whatever we need. Yeah, I would love to come back maybe in October or something and discuss the show because good or bad, even if our show is a bust, which I don't expect it to be as much work we're putting in, good or bad or whatever the negative experience, what I hated about the show, all of that. Well, for that super chat, we'll put you on the list.
The $2 down payment gets you right in the thick of the mix, right?
But yeah,
thank you, Keith.
Good, the bad, all of it we can discuss because this is our first experience as a promoter. My first experience as a promoter. I can kind of, I think I'm going to try so hard to kind of just absorb it all in and learn from it. And then so that if we were to have a second show or the next show, if this show is successful, you know, improve on it. And if any other show promoters, you know, want to learn from my horrible experience or great experience or whatever, you know, because Troy is Troy is actually a Patreon member of mine, and he's doing his second show ever the weekend after, you know, in Charlotte. And, you know, so we're going to share a lot of information, experience, and what we're finding out works or doesn't work, what we absolutely hate at the you know, doing at the shows, you know, what advertising works, you know. So I think that's going to be a really good experience for us and some other promoters as well. Some of the new ones that can, you know, would like to pick my brain or let me pick their brain.
Well, thank you for the transparency. And I'm a huge believer that good or bad results, the facts that underlie those results are important, and that's what you can learn from and learn and grow from in the future. But I think it'll be great. I didn't ask you, have you already put down a down payment on the next year's date or not?
No. So we already talked to the venue, and we're like, and they're asking us how many times we'd like to do the show, and I said annually would be great. Should it ever become 4 times a year? No, I told him it would never happen to be 4 times a year. Could it be a spring and fall show? Possibly, if the you know, if people are really requesting it, or if we have 17,000 people through the door, I can see that happening. I didn't put a deposit, but the venue has been very good with us, and they're saying that they are willing to hold places, you know, a date for us. Because the venue is massive. The venue that we're using has 8 separate rooms, and we're only renting 2 rooms out of the 8. And out of the 2 rooms is 70,000 square feet. This is what we're using.
Gotcha. Yeah.
You know,
well, it's easier to keep a customer than to go find a new one. So they may as well groom and dance with you while you're figuring it out versus go and find.
And I told them we don't do anything small. We're not going to half-ass anything, and they're helping us with our promotions and all that. But like I said, if I get 5,000 people through the door, I'm never going to mention vending and hosting another show. I'll just tell them, lose my phone number. We're really sorry for even bothering you guys. But again, if I get 15,000 people through the door, probably on Sunday afternoon, I would tell them, hey, go ahead and book me for the next year, and we'll pay your deposit and all that. I don't want a talk show. I don't want to be a show promoter. Like, I don't want that to be my title. I'm still a ball python breeder. I just want to be the ball python breeder that has a show that you can go to, you know, once a year or twice a year in Atlanta. And that's my, and again, I've been so happy with the response from the other promoters saying, okay, cool, Atlanta's yours now. We'll just stay out. And I've been like, thank goodness, because the last thing I want to do is be a new promoter and have to compete with NARBC coming in, you know.
Right. Well, Bob, best of luck. I predicted you'll do very, very well. Again, I appreciate you being here. Appreciate the opportunity. Stick around in the green room for just a second. I won't keep you long, but I'll say thanks. So, audience, thank you all for doing this with me every week. I got Corey DeLong from CD Constrictors on next week, and I will see you then. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Bob. Cheers, guys.